up, gamers? I'm Jason, and today I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter preview with Pableo Guevara of Poncho Games for the new Kickstarter deck building game, Clash of Armies. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to take a look at the game before the Kickstarter, Pablo.
Thank you to you all for allowing me to do this presentation also. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so why don't we discuss a little bit your game, player count, how long it's going to take to play, and then I'm going to be going into this game blind. Pablo's going to be teaching me how to play, and then we're going to be filming a playthrough of the game as well. Now, depending on how it all works out, this may be two separate videos or one video. Haven't quite decided yet. We're going to see how this goes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Clash of Armies Medieval, it's a head-to-head deck builder, where you start with a small few resources and soldiers, like a regular deck builder you will have during your phase, to draw cards and do the stuff that the cards allows you to do so. And the idea is to deal damage to your opponent, and the first one that it hit the 55 mark, it's dead, so the other player it's the winner. It's a two-players game. We're working on the 4-player and solo mode extensions for the Kickstarter. And also it's about 30 minutes gameplay. And because there's some cards to read about, it's a 12 plus years game. Like I say, you take during your turn, you have to draw cards, do your stuff, trying to attack the other player, buy cards from marketplace that is shared for both players. And one of the cool features that the game has is all those tricky mechanics between defense and attack, because the same unit that you use for attack, maybe you have to take the decision to put it on defense instead. It depends on what the other player has and everything. So this game gives you not just the regular, okay, I'm drawing and attacking you, but also you have to start to think about, well, from the beginning of the game, how are you gonna attack the other player, and how are you gonna avoid the attack for the other player? So all that tricky things, gives a lot of playability, and it gives you a lot of actions, not just active when you draw, but also when the other player is drawing, you have to take some decisions also there. So there's a lot of things to cover, and the rules are really simple. Actually, there's not that difficult. If you have experience on deck builders, well, you will find out that this one has a lot of things that are similar to others. So, yeah.
So why did you decide to design a deck building game instead of just a regular board game? Are you a big fan of deck builders, or was this idea just most suited to being in the deck building genre?
Well, this game it wasn't a deck builder in the beginning. I developed this game in 2016, and it was a pretty basic board game with these cool miniatures that you move armies all over the board in a hex-style type of board. And when you confront the other armies that are around you, and you clash with other armies, you move the game to a theater of war, which was pretty much like a soccer field or a football field. And you start moving your cards there. And in that part is when the deck builder concept began. But then I realized I'm from Argentina, develop this huge game will take a lot of effort, and probably it will be not possible to do it. So I started reducing the stuff. And by that time I was, and I am, a huge fan of Dominion. So I started thinking about what the things that I love from Dominion and what the other things that I don't like too much for Dominion. So I don't know. In a point in 2017 or 2018, both concepts, I don't know, hit it, and I got this idea of a garrison system and everything. And well, the deck builder is like it fits the concept. So last year, I have a friend of mine that he's a miniature painting from Germany. And because I was supposed to be in October on Germany, he told me, why don't you come to the Essen Spiel and show the game to someone? I allowed you a table on my booth, and you can show the game to everyone. So I developed this prototype of a deck builder pure deck builder. Probably the beginning of the 2019 was when the game was a pure deck builder. And I showed the game there. Well, a lot of people like it. So I came back to Argentina and decided to go, okay, I will go 100% to the deck builder concept because it works. I mean, the game, it's fast, it's fun. It allows you to do some real tactical decisions with just a few cards, and the medieval theme, which was the mainly idea of mine, to having a medieval game, pure medieval, non-fantasy, no heroes, no wizards, no everything, just pure medieval. Well, it kept on the theme of this game, so I go for it. I decided to in about more than just about a year, I decided to go 100% with a deck builder. But it has these different stages of the game. It began like a deck builder, like a board game. Then all of a sudden it was just pretty much like Clank, a board game, but with deck building mechanics. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, all the board thing, it just disappeared. And we only kept these cards that when we decide to get the game, we start thinking, okay, what are we going to do? Because we have over 400 cards designed, but we cannot have a 400 cards game on our first game. So we start to reducing the concept, and we stick to this 108 cards. That is actually 104 cards because the other 4 are just a scoring system. And then we start working with that pure deck builder. It's longer, maybe a year old.
Oh, it's really interesting to hear your development process and what you went through to get to the game. I think you actually made a lot of smart decisions by reducing it to a deck builder, because more often than not, when we look at certain projects on Kickstarter, they are these big board games, lots of miniatures. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially in recent months, is the shipping costs for a lot of those games are getting more and more expensive. And not to just talk badly about anyone, there are quite a few that I saw that I looked at the price for shipping and I'm like, you know what? If this is getting a retail release, I might as well wait for retail because I'm going to pay half the cost of the game to ship it. So I think for your first game and developing something that's going to be accessible, a lot easier to showcase with the medium that we're going to be using here, Tabletop Simulator, you made a good choice. And I was also very happy to hear about the solo mode, because one thing that I do find, especially on Kickstarter, and you have to pay shipping costs, is you can spend a lot on these games and it becomes a lot more challenging than you would think to get a few of them to the table. I've had some very successful Kickstarters that have come into the house and they've left before even being played, or they've been played once because I was like, man, I spent that much money on this and there's no solo mode, or just can't get it.
Both solo and 4-player extension, because I don't want that concept of, okay, you want to play 4, okay, just buy 2 decks and that's it, you'll have a 4-player deck builder. I don't like that idea. I need the interaction between all the players. I start working because a lot of people ask me to do so. So the solo mode is pretty much an automa that it will try to hit you hard while you're playing. So it's just a few cards that it creates this programming AI opponent. But let me tell you that one of the cool things about this type of game is that it just takes 5 minutes to set up and 30 real minutes to play. So I all the games that I play, I usually play a lot more with all this type of game that just set up just like that, and I can play with the kids or with my wife. So yeah, all the things were, while I was trying to define how it's going to end this game, well, all those things come to my mind. I mean, I have a lot of Kickstarter games that I really love, but I think they're still wrapped because I never opened it. I didn't have the time to open it, and the setup, sometimes it's awful. So I try to create, let's say if I'm going to create the first game, let's do a simple one. Let's try I mean, let's learn, because you have to learn a lot of stuff to do a Kickstarter campaign. So I have this concept of, okay, I will put this game on. It is a really cool game, but and also it's a really expandability game also in there. But let's try with this. Maybe on the future we can think about the other games that are always trying to develop. And actually, I have a lot of games on half-baked, you could say, because they have this issue that they took a lot of components and everything, and that always put me on hold with the idea. So when I came up with this and it works and people really like it, I mean, this year I showed the game to over at least 400 people on different virtual cons, and everyone seems to like the game. So it was a point of the year that I say, okay, I'm stick with this. I'm sticking with this. I will make the best one. That's why you will see the art of the game, and I think it's amazing. I try to get the best deck builder that is around. But yes, like you say, we need, at least I need, for the first game that I ever developed professionally, I would say that was the idea. The idea was to have a simple game. Not simple to design, because it takes a lot to design, but simple to play, and not that's a thing. I thought that, okay, we're just doing deck, I will take on a few months, and now it's really, really hard work, and we're still working on it. And everything that we can and we want to add on the game is like you have to rework everything. So yeah, I think we make the right decision. I think we make the right decision.
Just judging from a couple of big things that have happened on Kickstarter, I definitely think you've made the right call with doing something that is slim, neat, that you're comfortable developing, getting to market, that you think will be able to see the light of day. We've had quite a few high-profile projects in recent months that have kind of been like, hey, we have your money, but we're going back to the drawing board to square one. And if you're a first-time designer, doing something like that really doesn't go over well. So I think you've done a great job picking a deck building theme, especially if you're doing something that's head-to-head versus typically, if that's what you are doing, a short, quick card game goes over a lot better than a heads-up board game that might take a little bit too long to set up, and then you play, and then if someone loses, you're like, I don't like you anymore, and there goes our game night. Or you're expecting to play something a little later on, and they're like, I'm not playing with him, he just kicked my butt. Yeah, 30 minutes, no hard feelings. It works out very well.
Yeah, that's one of the cool stuff. I mean, this game, you will see what we show in the game that has also a lot of replayability, and because you don't play with all the cards on the same game, you have to choose factions to play along with. It creates this, okay, I'm sticking with that one kind of faction and trying to get the best of it. So for our group of players, and right now I have a playtesting group on Discord that it has people from all over the world that's playing the game. It's like, we have this game, like you say, we can play, and if someone wins, it wins. It's only for 30-minute gameplay. So it's a fast game. It's this fast concept of, do we have time? Yeah, we have, half an hour. Okay, let's play. And we set up in 5 minutes and we start playing. That's all those things were put on the table, on the board, to define this type of game. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we've been talking about the game, so let's head on over to Tabletop Simulator, and
awesome.
You can teach me the game. And as I said, we're going to probably be doing this video in 2 chunks. We don't end up with necessarily an hour-long video. So for those of you that have been enjoying this, we're going to continue with the how to play portion. Then depending on how that goes, I will probably go through 1 or 2 turns with Pablo. We're going to actually film the entire full play of the game, which we'll probably release separately, but we'll include those first 2 turns in the video, and then I will give you my preview thoughts on Clash of Armies. So stick with us. We'll be back in a second. All right, so I am back with Pablo, and he's going to be teaching me Clash of Armies for our how to play portion of this Kickstarter preview video.
Okay. Well, what we have here is the tabletop edition. It's half setup because it's easier to explain. This one is available to everyone, so if anyone wants to, I can also send you the link. So if anyone wants to get into, it can. And
If you would like to do that, I can include it in the video description so that those that have
okay,
Tabletop Simulator can go down below after they learn how to play the game and play with their friends during your campaign.
awesome. We just upload this. Probably tomorrow we're gonna upload the Spanish edition, and the German one is already available because we already have an agreement with a German publisher to do the game in German. So
Oh, that's
we already
fantastic.
do this. So I will show you with your cards what are the cards that you start playing with. You will start with 6 cards of value 1 as your resources and 1 card by value 2.
Okay.
The cards, when you draw it, it will give you that amount of money. And as you see down there, there is a small symbol tossing a card, which means that if you scrap that card, it means it's out of your game. It will give you by that time only an extra goal. So the game works in a pretty simple, basic like Dominion, when you have to, during your turn, you will have to draw 5 cards. And during that draw, well, there are 3 phases on it, but on the economic phase, you will draw all your cards, sum up all the amount that you have available to buy, and by that time you're buying stuff from the marketplace. That is the thing that you see here. That is right now half setup only. You have, like I said, these 7 resources, 6 values 1, 1 value 2, but also you will receive for free 3 soldiers, are these guys here. As you see down the name of the unit, you say it is an archer and it's a type of soldier. You will have 3 of these for free. Just a small explain because it's useful for all the type of cards. As you see on the left, on the flag, over the top, you will see a coin there. That means how much that unit costs to buy it. When you buy it, it's in your deck, and you don't have to pay anymore to use it. You just draw it. The second icon there is the type of unit. In this case, it's a bow archer unit. The third one is the attack level of this unit has. So when you draw, you deal that amount of damage. And on the fourth one, it's the defense, that it doesn't act directly. We will see in a minute how the defense works. And down there, not all the cards have the same. As you see, there's a slight difference between them, but it's a secondary action that the card has. So when you draw this card, for example, it will deal 1 damage and also allows you to draw 1 more card. In the case of this one, the same, deal 1 damage, but if you want to scrap, it will give you 1 gold. Well, there's a lot of things there. There are different types of soldiers. You have pikemen, swordmen, you also have horsemen, different type of units. And from all these 12, we're gonna get, let's group them, shuffle, and each player will get 3 of them for free. That's 1, 2, 3, and the other player will get 1, 2, 3. The rest of the soldiers are going to be available here to buy. You just have to pay for it. Okay? So with these 3 cards, we will group them. We'll also group the resources we put all together, and this is your shuffle deck that you start playing with. We will continue with the setup, but then it's pretty basic how you play. Like I say, you draw 5 cards and you start doing your stuff. They're not just soldiers, there's also resources on the marketplace that you can buy. Like the rest of the cards, you have to pay what it says down here, and in this case, they will give you a resource value of 2 or 3 each time you draw. And there's some actions down there that you can see that some of them require to scrap the card. It means take it off the deck. Or there's some actions down there that allows you to do some movements on the market while you're playing, which is a really cool stuff because it allows you to remove cards on the market, but use them by yourself. Because when you buy a card, that spot, it remains without any card until the other player turns begins, so it refills the market. We will see how that works on a regular basis. But there's the secondary action. It gives you both. It will give you, each time you draw this card, it will give you the amount of money that it says there, and also the action that you say down there. The only thing about resources is that they're really limited. There are only 7 of them. When they're gone, they're gone. There's no more resources to get it from. There's still some of them on another deck that we will see, but for now, they're pretty much the more amount, the ones that gives you more amount of resources. So far, so good.
Yep, I'm with you.
Okay. Well, now we have the fortifications. The fortifications are 5 of them. As you see, they're not just randomly shuffled. They're from the strongest one. It was the one that is on the bottom. And it goes to the weakest one that is the first one that is available. As you see, they have a value of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I also have another icon there, which means that that's the difference that this fortification has. What you do with the fortification is that when you will buy it, as the rest of the card, they will go to the discard. When you run out of card from your deck, you run out of this, you will take the discard, shuffle it, and it will become your deck. So when you draw a fortification, you put on the table, and then you start having some defense there. And the cool thing about the fortification is that allows you also to garrison units there. The amount that it says down there is 4, it's the amount of units that you can garrison there. So the units that you put there, it will increase the amount of defense. How that works? When you do your defense, you end up your turn, you stick with this on the table, and it's your opponent's turn. It has to create at least the same amount of damage to overcome this and put all this on discard. If it creates more, the difference between attack and defense is going to be damage that you will receive. But if it creates less, nothing happens. This remains still as it is. And on your next turn, you have the possibility to ungarrison the unit and use it for attack. So you will not just have the 5 cards that you have in your hand, but also the ones that you have as part of your defense. That's probably the trickiest mechanic that the game has. And how you work with that and how you combine that is what makes the game really unique. So that's one way to defend yourself, by using a fortification. Pretty much a medieval thing. When you have a fortification, you have defense. If you don't have anything, you don't have. In a way, because you still have another way to defend yourself. But we will come back to that in a few minutes. The rest of the setup, you will see some buzzers here. I will explain about this in a minute. You don't have to pay for it. You will see how that works. We have here what we call the general deck. The general deck has different type of units. It has siege units. You may also find special units there. Maybe we can explain those while they pop out, but the thing is that when you take some of this, it will take the actions that I see downstairs. They're pretty cool. The siege units are powerful. This is the largest attack unit on the game, that it has a value of 7. But against a fortification, as you see on the actions down there, it increases because when you are attacking a fortification, adds the defense value of the fortification to the attack. So there's some tricky in there, like on the real life siege units. When you attack a fortification, are stronger than attacking on a battlefield. So you have different type of units here. They're pretty cool units. Maybe the ones that are not really seen in other games are these ones, which are what we like to call bug cards, which means that you will buy it, but you will not put it in your discard. You will put it in your opponent's discard. So that will start bugging your opponent's deck. And there's another type of card that is going to be here on the general deck is what we call the medieval events. The medieval events are things that happens while you're playing the game, like this. There's some positives and some negatives. Pretty much, of course, theme cards, the Black Plague, the Championships, Crusades, festivities, well, all type of medieval events. And all these medieval events, we will take, there 10 of them on the basic game. We will take them, we're going to shuffle them, and we're going to put 6 on the general deck. So the other 4 that are left, they're not one less. They're not going to be part of this game, so they're out. That's one of the things that I was talking to you that you have cards that you will not use on a regular basic game. I put this one aside for a minute to explain something later, but you have this deck that you fed 3 slots from the market. If a medieval event comes now, which just happens, we will remove it. It will not be part of this game. So we'll put another event down, and that's it. So with this, we fed 3 slots from the general deck. And there's another deck that we have to build, and that's the faction deck. If you see down here, we have, let me put this one aside a little bit. You have 6 factions on the game. All of them have 6 cards, and all of them are asymmetric. But the thing is that all of them will have at least 1 hero. It will have different type of faction units. In this case, they have 2, and it has a monarch. The thing about all this is how you combine them is what will make your deck more powerful, what will make your more powerful deck or less powerful. For example, how you combine this? Well, you have the monarch, which is probably the most important figure in the game, that when you buy, the rest of the card, all the cards that you see, they will go to the discard, except for the monarch. When you buy a monarch, you will keep it on the table. So in a way, it becomes your faction monarch, your king in this case, or queen, for example, if you go for this faction. So what happened there is that when you have a unit from that faction, let's say you have this, and you draw it, it will activate not just the attack that it says down there, but also what we call the faction actions that it says down there, because they have the same faction as the king. So what makes really powerful your deck is by having a monarch from a faction and having cards from the same faction. And like I said, for example, this longbow archer has a 3 attack, but if you draw this and you have this king, it has a 4 value attack. A lot of cards have that tricky combination. But let's say you don't have this king. You still have these cards in your deck, but you don't have this king, or the king died during the game, or whatever happened. You just have, let's say we have another king. Well, that is where the hero comes to, in a way, to replace the king. By drawing the hero on the same hand as the unit, it also activates the faction action, because it activated by the hero. So the strategic of the game is that, for example, if you have a fortification, you can have one or the other on a fortification to activate those. It's somehow complicated what I explained, and really easy when you play the game.
No, okay. It makes sense exactly with what you're describing. Okay. Especially with the fact that the king is always out there, so you may want to garrison your hero. Maybe you want to keep him there, depending on how many cards you have in the game and which faction that hero is a part of.
Exactly. Well, the king, even though it's on the table, when you put the king on the table, a vassal represents the king, because the king has some passive actions. Like, for example, you have this king and you have this fortification. Well, the king will increase the amount of fortification by the defense that he has. So when you have a fortification with a king, this one doesn't have a 4 defense, has a 5 defense. But when the vassal comes out, the vassal represents the king on the deck, so it also activates like if it were another card, the king. So for example, in this case, it heals you 2 points. That's the symbol is for. And particularly this guy has a passive action down there, but some of them, let's say this one, for example, doesn't have a passive. So when the vassal comes out, if you have this king, it will create the 3 damage point here, and also allows you the action that is set down there. So that's how the vassals work on the game. But like I say, all the factions are asymmetric. They all have different actions, but all of them has at least 1 monarch, at least 1 hero, and at least 1 type of faction unit. The other thing that I need left to say is that, like I say, you have this type of defense by using the fortification in a way that it works like a stronghold. So let's say you put the fortification, you put this guy, you have the king. So when you end up your turn, you will tell your opponent how much defense you have. So you have a 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 is because you have the king, it's 8, plus 1 because it's an archer unit, and also some combination there is a 9, and plus 1 for the king, it's a 10. So with only 3 cards, you have a 10 total defense. So the other player has to create at least 10 to get rid of this. If you create less, nothing happens, and like I say, you have the opportunity on your next turn to attack with the same cards that you're using for defense. But I was telling you that you have another way to defend yourself, which is the camp that you see down here. We both have the camp from the beginning of the game.
Okay.
If you see the action of the camp, it says that you can garrison units there, pretty much like the stronghold, but you need a hero. So that's why they're also important, the heroes, because it allows you to put a hero and then start garrison units there. And the last thing about this game that it makes it really, really tricky to think about while you're being attacked and while you're being on defense is that the stronghold defense, it works as a whole. I mean, all the units that you have there, the fortification, the king, it will create a whole stronghold value. But in the case of the camp, it's optional in a way that I can have this, for example, and the other player says, okay, I deal you, I don't know, 10 damage. Well, with 10 damage, this one is out, but it's up to me to decide if I use this and sacrifice this to defend myself, or just keep it there because I want to keep it, because on my next turn, I want to use it for attack.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense, and I like that flexibility aspect. That adds a lot of value to getting heroes as well as the monarchs, and just makes it so that you've got a lot of strategy that you're going to be using in the game, even though the strategy is fairly straightforward in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's the idea of the game. The concept of the game was to create all this tricky stuff that it allows you to create. With just drawing 5 cards, all of a sudden you may have a huge army, and you can create. Well, the record it has by one reviewer has the record, which is 47 damage points on one round.
Wow.
The game. Yeah, that's quite a lot actually. But off the record, we have a 51, but it doesn't have any documentary on it, so we don't believe that he takes 51. But officially and record one, it's a 47. And this game you start by just dealing 1, 2, 3 damage on the first round. But by the 7th, 8th round, you have to do all these combinations between camp, fortifications, trying to hold the defense, trying to hold the attack from your opponent to get the cards. Well, all that things makes you to create maybe a 15, 20 cards attack by drawing and garrison from camp and garrison from fortification. The game ends when one of the players doesn't mean that it hit the 55. That's it. It ends the game. The 55 triggers the end. So if the guy that start the game receive the 55, well, it ends. But if the other player is the one that receive the 55, because both players has to play the same amount of rounds, there's still one more round. So there's sometimes that the game ends 55-21, but there's sometimes the game ends 75-74. That happens. So that's one of the cool thing about the game, that you can, on the last round, even when you already have the 55, but if you were the second player that start the game, you can have the opportunity to do a last stand attack. And if you see, there's some preparation on the cards for that last stand, because, for example, the fortifications that maybe you will use while you're playing, you will use them to protect yourself. Well, on the last time, you just draw everything, toss everything to the scrap, and draw more cards, and try to create a larger army. Both the monarch and the fortification, you can have as many as you want on the deck, but only one can be activated. So if you have this one active, you can have another one on the deck, but when it comes out, it's up to you to decide if you switch them and put this one here, or just scrap it to draw more cards if you want to do this.
If you decide to switch your fortification, would your troops garrison there? Just be garrisoned at the new fortification?
Yeah, they will keep it garrison.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the game.
And then over here, you set aside the hero that we can get from the standard deck.
Yeah, well, it turns out that another hero came out. There's 3 heroes, non-faction heroes there. There's William Wallace, the Friar Tuck, and there's also cool guy called, well, everyone loves the name Robin Hood. We prefer Robin Lashley. So these ones can be also used to garrison units there. like the heroes from the faction, you can use them. So you have 6, well, not 6, you will see. You have 3 heroes or 4 from the faction deck that we call, and you will have 3 heroes non-faction from this deck. So that it increases the possibility to have different type of heroes. What I was saying that it's only 3 on the faction, well, it's because the cool thing about the game is that even though there's 6 factions on a 2-player, you have to choose 3 to play with. So you just select 3. I will put it randomly. I will take, for example, the Saracen, the French guys, and the German guys. And we take all these 3, we'll shuffle them, we will put it here. The other 3 are out for this game. So as you see, there's a lot of replayability on the game. And these cards will benefit 2 slots from the market. So now we have the game built to start playing with.
All right, and so there's 3 cards from the general market deck and 2 from the faction market deck.
Exactly. Yeah, there's 1 card. I don't know if it's here. Well, it's here. That what happened if you remember, I put some medieval events there. So what happened is that, for example, I buy this guy. So when the turn switch, we will draw, and if a medieval event comes in that point, we have to solve it. In this case, this one is a positive because it renewed all the market and also increased the amount for the rest of the game by 1 slots here.
Okay.
But it's up from there for now. So basically, how you play the game is that you draw 5 cards. You first have to do all your military stuff. After you do your military stuff, you go for the economic part, which is sum up all the resources that you get in that round, and you can buy 1 or as many cards as you want.
So for the military phase, that would be attacking,
garrison, having more units, making the other opponent discard cards. Well, there's a lot of stuff there, but they're pretty much all the actions of the game. It's like military actions, actually.
Yeah.
And
sorry to jump in. What I was going to say, so on a first run of the game, for example, is we might have like 3 cards that were military max because those are the ones that were added into the deck. So we would maybe attack and do 3 damage. And then for the economic phase, we then purchase something from the marketplace.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and then you have to decide which card do you want to buy, if you want to scrap or not. There's some players that like to scrap everything right away. There's some others that want to hold the small goal of 1. Well, that's the strategy, actually. There's a lot of strategy on the game. Like I was telling you, for example, you buy a car, you have to wait to refill until your turns end. So the things that are up from this deck, they're going to be available for not for you, but for your opponent, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's why these resources are really useful, because when you draw it, you will not just have the 2-value gold that is down there, that it also allows you to, in that point of the game, to scrap cards to see what else comes, but it's for your turn, not for your opponent's turn. And if a medieval event comes in that point, you have to decide if you want to keep it because it affects your opponent or not. Or you may have another strategy. Let's say you have all this money. That's a total of 7 up to 12 if you want to scrap everything. And because it's a 7, you know that you have, for example, here fortification of 4, but you know that the ones that are below is a 5. So with this action, you can scrap 1 to get the other one. That's another strategy that you can use. Or you can scrap resources because you don't want your opponent to have more resources. They're really limited. Like I say, even though there's some units here that gives you some money, the pretty much the largest money that you will get during the game is from this deck. So all those strategies are made by these cards, this action down there on the resources. And that action also is in another card here on the main deck, which is called the merchant. Then it gives you pretty much the same ability. So there's a lot of movement on the market. Let's say, I don't know, you're watching that the other player is taking a lot of French guys, and all of a sudden the king comes. So it's your call to decide if you want to scrap it or not, because it will affect you if your opponent has that card. Well, all of that you have to think about while you're playing with the game. And then you always have to remember what cards do you have, and especially what is your opponent having. Because, like I said, when you develop your defense, you have to really think about how much are you going to put here to avoid the attack of your opponent. Because if the other player attacks you, all this go to the discard. So this energy that you have, you don't use it to attack, you lost it. So a lot of things that you have to think about while you're playing.
No, makes total sense, and I'm eager to see how I'm going to do against you. And these components over here are for the expansions?
Yeah, well, all these there are things that we're working on it. There's some of them that are already built on the game. Which, if we get succeed on the Kickstarter founded, we're gonna start use this as a stretch goal. And this one is probably the one of the one that everyone likes, because it's the Nordic soldiers. Some of them there's not art from us. Some of them are stolen from the internet. But there are others like this and this that are just part of our game. Well, I don't know what the others there. But the difference between these is, like I say, on the regular basic game, when you buy, you put on the discard, except for the king. The king is the only one that is kept on the table. But in this case, that you want to use the Nordic soldiers are available to buy right away. In a way that you can, for example, garrison money. And you can, while you're being attacked, you can garrison money to buy Nordic soldiers like a barbarians. So it adds a lot of new mechanic concept. That first you have to know pretty well how the basic game works, because if you toss all this on the beginning, you will make a mess. And probably 90% of the things that are here on the extensions, you will not use it, because you will not know how to use them.
No, I just wanted clarification, as I'm sure someone in the comments would be like, "Hey, what's that stuff in the corner you didn't talk about?"
Well, there's another thing. Here we're working on upgrades that you buy, and there's upgrades for your fortification, like a bridge or troop de loup, which is a defense mechanic from the French guys, or moat. All this, when you buy them, you will put it in your table. So when you have a fortification, it has this upgrade already done. That's another feature that we're working on. This is for the 4 players edition, that it adds, diplomacy, princess, because you will start playing all against each other. I mean, if let's say you play between 4 players, you will play all against each other. But there's going to be another phase that is not on a regular basic game, that it allows you to do some diplomacy. So you can do a diplomacy that it will cost you. You will have to pay to maintain. And if the other player put the same one, you have an agreement, so you will not be both attacking. But in a diplomacy way. If you remove this, there's a possibility to attack it. Also, you can use caravans to do an economic agreement between players. So you start with this game, like I say, everyone against each other, but while you're playing, you can end up in a 2 versus 2 game, 3 versus 1. Well, there's a lot of things. There's some medieval events, for example, that is a newborn, that when the newborn comes out, the player will get this card, and on the next turn, this newborn will become a prince or a princess. And like I say, diplomat has an agreement between both players. In a diplomat way, you have to pay for it, and both players has to agree to put a diplomat in front, just not to attack each other. But you can do a deal of a princess blood agreement that it lasts for the rest of the game. So, like I say, I don't like this whole concept of deck builder that, okay, you want to play with 4 players? Well, just buy 2 decks and that's it. No. In this game, playing a 4 game, it turns out that it was really, really fun. You will fight a lot with other players. You're probably going to get anger because there's a lot of attrition. I don't know how to say in English. There's a lot
of betrayals that happen during the game.
That's the word. A lot of betrayal, because you start by doing some diplomacy or by doing some economic diplomacy, and all of a sudden a newborn comes from another point. So it creates this phase that it's in the middle of the game, that it will take a game a little longer, but it will deal all this diplomat while you were fighting between all them, because you are just kings from the medieval era and you're interested in being the most important king. That's the extension to play for 4 players. And there's another things that we're working on that probably we get, if we consider get a huge success on the game, we can start thinking about, for example, the time and places extension, that it adds a new mechanic to win the game. So you will not just have this head-to-head attack, but also have this opportunity to put units in the camp, and then by the end of your turn, put the units in a field. And if you get 3 of these 5 fields, you're the winner. So you have 2 victory conditions, not just fighting against each other, but also dominion, there's another name of this mechanic, but it's field placement. That's another way to win the game. So it's a secondary victory condition.
Very cool. Looking forward to see what unlocks during the campaign.
Well, if we can unlock it, it's really cool. And it's, like I say, I developed over 400 cards on this game. So I have all this concept that each extension, it's not just a few cards and that's it, but also has to have this full concept of, okay, it has to modify in some way the mechanic of the game. That's my idea of an extension, not just having, I have a crosswoman, well, I have a new one. No. All the things that we're working on it has to modify in some way the game. The last extension that we were working on, this is probably the one that it kept on the original game. It's a weather condition. When you start the game, you take all the cards that are weather conditions and you draw one. And what it says the card, you see there's, for example, it's a number 1 there. What it means is that during one round, it's going to be this weather condition. So it's going to be rainy. What happened there is that you cannot attack with a siege unit, and the horse is going to have a +1 on attack. So when this round ends, another windy condition comes. Okay, it's calm, so it will take 4 rounds on a calm way, in a way that there's not going to be Black Plague or Winter of Death, so some of the events are not available. The defense of the archers are going to increase. Well, all these are different type of things that they last what the card says. So this one takes 2 rounds, and while doing a snowstorm, there's no way to use the canvas defense. So all the units that you have on the camp have to go to the fortification. If you have fortification, if it's not, you just lost it. And during 2 turns, there's no way to defend yourself by using the camp. Well, all this adds more randomness on the game.
Perfect. Well, it's going to be a very exciting campaign.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So we've learned how to play the game. We've learned about what's coming up in the game. So why don't we go ahead and play a couple rounds? So probably do at least 2 to 3 rounds, and then I'll be coming at our viewers with my thoughts on Clash of Armies. But don't worry, if you want to see the full playthrough, it'll be coming at a later date, as we're going to record the entire thing.
Okay. Cool.
So why don't we get started? So let's put that stuff aside, and then what do? We draw 5 cards?
Yeah, you draw 5. And yeah, I don't know if you want me to start or do you want to start? We usually start the one that it was on the last medieval convention.
That would definitely be you, so go ahead and start.
Okay. So, like I said, first you have to do your military. In this case, I have a crossbowman only, that it deals 2 damage. You don't have any defense, so you get the damage right straight. We use, on the physical world, we use this scoring card system, that it has this. You start with 0-0, like you see here, and you can score from 0-0 to 99 with this card. But on the tabletop, we prefer these little guys. Are really easy to get. But on the physical world, this one works pretty nice. Let's say you have, 26 damage, so you put like this, and you can keep score here. One way to get score. But like I say, on the tabletop we use this. So now that I do my military, I don't have more military. I already call my attack, so I go to the economic, and I have a 5, potentially 8, if I decide to scrap some cards. So let's say with these 5 up to 8, that I will take. We don't talk about the cards that it comes out. What it comes out was the hero from the Sand faction, which is pretty much a Saracen faction. A unit from the French guys, a non-faction hero, like William Wallace, that it has a really cool action down there. The largest unit on the game, which is a trebuchet, that's 7, is the total, the maximum amount, and a 4 ram, that, like I say, has a 4, but against a fortification, as you see down there, it increased the value of attack. So in my case, I have a 5. I'm gonna take this 2, and I'm gonna scrap 1 to get a fortification. So that's a 6. I have a 5 and I scrap 1, so it's a 6. Okay?
Yep. All right.
Okay. Oh, third phase, the last one, is put all on the side, put all on the discard, draw the new 5 cards, and call the attack. Call the defense that you have, which in this case is none, to your opponent.
Okay, so I would then play my military.
Okay.
So I have an archer, which does 1 damage, and then a swordman, which does 1 damage. And I could, if I chose, scrap both of them to gain extra.
You get 2 goals, exactly.
Yeah, which is not something that I really want to do right now. Well, maybe I will actually scrap 1. Just take a look at what's available.
When you do that, you just call the attack and get the damage. You move to the economic.
Yeah, so I move to the economic phase. So I only have 3 gold, but I can scrap it to get more. But I don't think I want to do that right away necessarily. Well,
yeah, you have a 3, potential total 8. Consider if you scrap everything.
Yeah, if I scrapped everything, which I don't necessarily want to do. But as you've mentioned, the resource cards are important.
Of course, they're really limited.
So I'm going to take that nice 3 resource, put it into my discard pile.
Okay.
And of course, I'll always forget the quick way to stack these together.
You create a window, you press the G. So you first have to create a window to select the particular.
Yeah, there we go. G.
Yeah, well, tabletop turns out to be the best thing for us as designers because it allows you to play test the game, see if something is wrong, do the modification, and play test again in just, 5 minutes.
All right. So let's keep going.
My turn. I have this. I deal you 4 damage, and you have to discard 1 card. So you take the 4, and you have to discard 1. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna take these 3, and I'm gonna scrap all them to have a 6. And with those 6, I'm gonna buy a resource of 2 and a hero, because the hero is really important. That's a 5, so I have 1 more left, but I don't want to use it. It's optional to use it or not. So that's it. That's my turn. What we'll do now is I have to flip, shuffle, draw my new 5 now, and I have to refill the market to put it available to you. When it comes out is the hero from the Germanic faction. Just a reminder, the 3 factions, Saracen, French guys, which has a blue flag, and this little guy, William Tell, that's a black one. That's the hero from the Germanic faction.
Alright, so I only have my 4 economic cards, so I have a total of 5 right now, and I could scrap to get more.
Probably you're missing 1 card because he
discarded the swordsman.
Okay. So you have a 5 up to 8.
Yeah, so 5 up to 8, but what I'm going to do is I will purchase William Wallace, because I do like that hero.
4.
And then I will scrap 1 to get an extra one, so I can then purchase this crossbowman.
Oh.
And put that all together.
Wow. Now it's my turn. what I will do now is I'm gonna not attack you, but because this is a hero. Oh, let me refill, because if a medieval event comes now, we have to solve it. Now it's my turn, so I will not attack you. I will put my hero here, and I'm gonna put my unit here because the hero allows me to do this defense on my camp. And I have a 5. What it comes out right now, it's a bug card. I mean, when you buy it, you will not put it in your hand, but you will put it in your opponent's hand. Which, in this case, I'm gonna scrap 1. I'm gonna remove by this action this to see what it comes out, because I want to see what it comes out. Well, a medieval event that affects both, and you have to start thinking about how it will affect, because if I keep it, you have to activate it while switching turns. So when we switch in turns, I have to take my discard cards, which I will have some. I don't want to, and probably you will not have that many because you don't have now. So if I kept this one, because I activated with this card, if I kept this one, it will affect me and not you, because you don't have any discard card. So what will happen is that I don't want to keep it. So let's move on. I have another one. With the money that I just have a 6, I will buy a 3, and I will buy this little guy to you. So you put this one on your discard. And that's pretty much it, my round. I had to draw my new 5. I have to tell you how much defense do I have, which in this case is optional because it's on the count. So it's up to me to use it for defense or not. You have to call the attack, and then I have to decide if I use it or not for defense. But in this case, I have a defense of 2.
Okay.
And let's refill. What it comes now, it's a mantlet. Well, it will work, and now it's called mantlet. That you can use it both as a fortification and also as an attacker. So you can have it, and you can garrison unit there. And on your next round, if you want, you can garrison not just the unit that you have there, but also the unit here that increase by 1 for each card you attack along with it. So that's a hybrid kind of card. And the other one that it comes out was the merchant. It's a really cheap one that it gives you 2 golds. Each time it comes out, will give you 2 golds and allows you, well, pretty much the action that it says down there, allows you to remove 2 cards from the market and decide if you want to keep it or not.
All right, so I got to do my military action, which is surprisingly high this turn.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Well, what you have there is a 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 1 8, 9, and with this one, you have 3 more, it's 12.
So I definitely want to attack with everything, because that's just like...
That's how you have to handle your strategy, because you can put this here, you can use this one to defend yourself. Well, that's up to you. You use all for attack.
Yeah, I'm going to use all for attack. I don't think I'm going to get another 12 anytime soon.
Yeah. So you call the attack. You just say, okay, I'll deal with 12, because I don't want to use this one to defense, because if I use it for defense, I have to sacrifice them. I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to take the 12 completely. So I go out to 14. And now you have your economic thing to do.
So these will all end up. Or can I still scrap any of the cards?
Yeah, you can scrap the one. You can scrap the cards that are available to do so.
So I'm going to put everything in the discard that I'm not going to scrap. I'll keep the swordman out just in case. So I have the jewel, which is 3, which means I could buy another jewel. Or I can... A few good things here. But actually, you know what? I will buy another jewel. And then I will scrap the swordsman to pick up the merchant.
Oh. Well, while you're drawing, let's refill. Siege unit comes out, a catapult, and it's my turn. I have defense, so I will begin to defend myself. Because you don't have any defense, I want to take out this to attack you, so you have to discard 1 card, and also have a 4 damage attack total.
Okay.
So now it's done. I'm gonna put this here. It's a total of 3 up to 6. 3 up to 6. Let me see if 3 up to 6. Well, that's 4. Well, no, I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna scrap to get one more. And that's it. There's no more resources. So now I have, let me draw, I have a defense of, strictly a defense. So when you go ahead, you have to try to avoid, to overcome this. I have a 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I have a 7, and a plus 1 if I decide to use the hero. 7 plus 1. On the Kickstarter, we're going to put here, we're going to offer as a Kickstarter exclusive a defense counter here. So you don't have to remember everything. That just
You'll be able to add it up. No, that'll be good. So I have a total of 5 resources right now, and
5 up to 8.
Yeah, 5 up to 8. It just doesn't quite do what I want. But I will buy this. I will scrap one of these resources so I can also buy the pikemen.
Okay.
Put them into my hand. Take 2 cards.
Well, I will do this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put here to defense to increase my defense. I deal you attack with this. That's a 3 that you should take. And then I move to economic. I have a 6 up to 10, and 6 up to 10. Well, let's shake it up a little bit. I'm gonna take this 4, and also let's see, 4. You just buy a 5 defense, so this one is useless. 4. Well, this one is 7, so I have here a 6. I'm gonna scrap 1. So that's it. I still have a defense here. I have a defense total of, like I said, 7, 8 now. It's 8 plus 1.
Okay.
So it's up to 9. I have to draw, quick shuffle, and draw the other 2. And we have to refill this and this. Becomes, well, it's the unit from Saracens. It's a cool offensive, but mostly defensive unit.
Okay.
And, well, we'll make a mess like this. Okay.
All right, so this will be the last turn that we're going to play for those of you that are watching the Kickstarter preview video.
Okay.
And after that, don't worry, if you are interested, I will be releasing at a later date the full playthrough of this game with Pablo. So right now, I only have the merchant. So would he count as my military phase?
Yeah, it's military because it allows you to remove cards and see what else comes out, and it also gives you already 2 cards. And if you scrap it, it will give you 4 value card or less.
So I can replace 2 cards in the market.
You can replace 2. You can replace, or you can even scrap. I mean, if you take off from these 2, you scrap it. You are scrapping, not replacing. If you take from these 5, you are replacing.
Okay, so these are scrapped. These ones are replaced. So I want to replace the 2 faction units.
Okay, so we take this one out, and 2 are revealed now for you. That's the king from this faction.
Okay.
Salad. Powerful one.
Okay, so I've got 2 gold.
You have 4 up to 5. Well, you have 8 up to 11, and also you can scrap 1 more if you want.
So I have 8 up to 11. So you know what? I will scrap the resources to take the king. So I have to scrap.
Okay, let me put this one for you because this one represents the king.
Then I may scrap a card from the market and then fill the slot immediately. I'll scrap this catapult. I don't like it.
Okay. This is a bug card. When
And
you
of
buy
course,
one of your
I'm missing one in order to buy the bad card. But I can scrap the merchant
Okay.
put that in
Thank you.
your discard pile.
Yeah. I don't have any. I just the first one.
Yeah, so don't know if that was the best move, but I think it works well for the how to play. Get to see a lot of the strategy of the game. So, for those of you that, as I mentioned, this is the end of our teach of Clash of Armies. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned as we will be releasing the full how to play video shortly, and I'll be coming back at you with my thoughts on this Kickstarter. Now, what did I think of Clash of Armies? Well, this is definitely a heads-up 1v1 game. There is the 4-player mode that is being worked on. I've not gotten a chance to play it yet, but I'll share some thoughts as to what I think it will be like a little later on in the video. But if you're looking to scratch that 1v1 heads-up itch, you definitely have the right game for you. You're going to have a lot of variety with the different factions, the fact that each of the factions is not always going to be present in the game, and the variety of events that can really shift play one way or the other, get rid of kings. So that type of stuff is going to be great for players that love highly variable experiences with a lot of replayability. Now, there's definitely a lot of strategy that's going to come with knowing the cards, knowing the events that can potentially be in the deck, as well as how to chain the combos together. And the downside about that is, even though this is a 30-minute game, I don't think this is a game that's going to go over very well unless you make this your regular filler game. This is the kind of thing that you own, but you try to play it with a new player in between different sessions. I do think a new player will be able to grasp it fairly easily. It's not that complicated, but your strategy is going to just be much deeper when you're the person that owns the game and knows all of the cards. So if you do plan to get this and you're going to bring it out regularly, you don't have a good filler game, I really suggest this. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that knowledge is everything in this game. For those of you that watched the how to play, we do have the full playthrough that's coming. I won't spoil it, but you will definitely see that my lack of knowledge in the game and different strategies didn't make it so that I wasn't competitive, that I didn't feel like I was part of the game, but it definitely set me behind a lot more than I would typically like. That being said, though, when you want a good 1v1 heads-up game, you really need to have something that is deep, strategic, and you're going to have a lot of different paths to victory. And Clash of Armies does that very well. Also, with the 4-player mode, I definitely think you're going to be getting a lot more variety, and that will completely change my comment in terms of what you're going to be getting with this game. You could be getting the game that you'll want to take out at game night. This won't be a filler that you and another player are going to play in between, shifting between big games. You just finished yours. The other table will be done in half an hour, so you need something to play. You'll have a really good experience that you're going to want to get to the table. And one of the things I also want to highlight about Clash of Armies, I love the art, I love the theme, having a straight up medieval combat theme, also one that's so easy to set up, get to the table. It really is going to help out for those of us that have game nights, when every so often you've got a player or two that have been knocked out from games with player elimination, or maybe the game just wasn't really going well for someone, they're literally dragging along in last place, and they'd rather go and play another game instead of sitting around and just kind of painfully wait for a game to be over. Now, Clash of Armies will definitely be the perfect game in those types of situations. Also, for people that love playing heads-up games very quickly and be able to be like, oh man, I lost, and just forget about it. The fact that it plays in about 30 minutes is really a great advantage. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Clash of Armies. I think that you've got potentially a great game for people that enjoy heads-up versus play. If you're looking for a deep strategic filler game to take out during game nights when you got a little extra time, or if you got someone that lives close that's always there earlier than everyone else, well, this could be the game that you guys play and develop a really nice rivalry and figure out lots of cool, intricate strategies. So there you have it, Clash of Armies. Now, popping up in front of me, well, I'm actually getting a little bit ahead of myself. It's time for me to actually remind you to like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when our next video is released. Also, down below in the video description, there are links to all of our social media feeds: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures as to what Julie and I are going to be playing next on the channel, some of the stuff that may be coming into the house, well, all those pictures will be up on the feeds. And then popping up in front of me, like I already mentioned, will be links to some of our previously released videos. You can have a link over here that will be our most recently released one. And over here will be a link to our Kickstarter preview for Deck of Wonders. And I just want to remind everyone to not forget, keep playing games.